Hello, everybody. Welcome to our English 116, the campus journalism class. We are now moving on to the last topic in Module 1, the introduction to campus journalism 1. And our topic is all about the legal basis of campus journalism. But before that, allow me first to introduce myself. I am Annie Azarcon, and I will be the one who will discuss the lesson 5. Before we go on to the discussion proper, let us first talk about our intended learning outcomes, wherein at the end of the lesson or the discussion, the learners are expected to, first, is to explain the importance of legal basis for campus journalism. Second is to find out the different statutes and code on journalism. And third, to identify the difference between libel and cybercrime. Statutes and code on journalism. When we say statutes, it is a rule or law which has been made by a government or other organization and firmly written down, while code is a collection of laws, rules, or regulations that are systematically arranged. Code is not only a compilation of already existing statutes, but also of the unwritten law or any subject composed of materials available from all sources. The constitutional provision. The right to publish news is not expressly granted by law, but is founded on the general liberty of the people. The freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to speak, write, and broadcast, is a fundamental human right, and it is not granted by law. These human rights allow citizens to speak freely without interference of the state, so the state shall make no law abridging this right. Philippine Constitution of 1987, Article 3, Section 4 states, "No law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, of expression, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition of the government for redress of grievances." As what I have said, the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people is a fundamental right. So the state shall make no law abridging these fundamental rights. Republic Act No. 7079, an act providing for the development and promotion of campus journalism and for other purposes, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the Philippines in Congress assembled. Section 1, the title. This act shall be known and referred to as the Campus Journalism Act of 1991. Section 2, the Declaration of Policy. It is declared policy of the state uphold and protect the freedom of press even at the campus level and promote the development and growth of campus journalism as a means of strengthening ethical values, encouraging critical and creative thinking, and developing moral character and personal discipline of the Filipino youth. In furtherance of this policy, the state shall undertake various programs and projects aimed at improving the journalistic skills of students concerned in promoting responsible and free journalism. Section 3, definition of terms. First is we have school. I know all of you are very familiar with this one. School is an institution for learning in the elementary, secondary, or tertiary level, comprised of studentry, administration, faculty, and non-faculty personnel. Second, we have the student publication. Student publication, the issue of any printed material that is independently published by and which meets the needs and interests of the studentry. Student journalist. Any bona fide student enrolled for the current semester or term who has passed or met the qualification and standards of the editorial board, he must likewise maintain a satisfactory academic setting. The fourth one is the editorial board. In the tertiary level, the editorial board shall be composed of student journalists who have qualified in placement examinations. In the case of elementary and high school levels, the editorial board shall be composed of a duly appointed faculty advisors. The editor, who qualified and represented with the Parents Teachers Association, who will determine the editorial policies to be implemented by the editor and staff of the student publication concerned. At the tertiary level, the editorial board may include the publication advisor at the option of its members. And the last one is the editorial policies, a set of guidelines by which a student publication is operated and managed, taking into account of pertinent laws as well as the school administrations. administration policies, said guidelines shall determine the frequency of the publication, the matter of selecting articles and features, and other similar matters. Section 4. Student publication. A student publication is published by the student body through an editorial board and publication staff composed of students selected by fair and competitive examinations. Once the publication is established, its editorial board shall freely determine its editorial policies and manage the publication's funds. Section 5. Funding of student publication. Funding for the student publication may include the savings of the respective school's appropriations, student subscriptions, donations, and other sources of funds. In no instance shall the Department of Education, Culture and Sports or the school administration concerned withhold or release the funds sourced from the savings of the appropriations of the respective schools and other sources intended for the student publication. Subscription fees collected by the school administration shall be released automatically to the student publication concerned. Section 6. Publication Advisor. The publication advisor shall be selected by the school administration from a list of recommendees submitted by the publication staff. The function of the advisor shall be limited to one of technical guidance. Section 7. Security or a member of the publication staff must maintain his or her status as student in order to retain membership in the publication staff. A student shall not be expelled or suspended solely on the basis of articles he or she was written or on the basis of the performance of his or her duties in the student publication. Section 8. Press conferences and training seminar. The Department of Education, Culture and Sports shall sponsor periodic competitions, press conferences, and training seminars in which student editors or writers and teachers advisor of student publication in the elementary, secondary, and tertiary levels shall participate. Such competitions, conferences, and seminars shall be held at the institutional, divisional, and regional levels, culminating with the holding of the annual national elementary, secondary, or tertiary school press conferences in places of historical and/or cultural interest in the country. Section 9. Rules and Regulations. The Department of Education, Culture and Sports, in coordination with the officers of the national elementary, secondary, or tertiary organizations or officials advisors of student publications, together with students journalists at the tertiary level and existing organization of student journalists, shall promulgate the rules and regulations necessary for the effective implementation of this act. Section 10. Tax Exemption. Pursuant to Paragraph 4, Section 4, Article 14 of the Constitution, all grants, endowments, donations, or contributions used actually, directly, and exclusively for the promotion of campus journalism as provided for in this Act shall be exempt for donors or gift tax. Section 11. Appropriations. For the initial year of implementation, the sum of 5 million pesos is hereby authorized to be charged against the savings from the current appropriations of the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports. Thereafter, such amount as may be necessary shall be included in the General Appropriations Act. Section 12. Effectivity. This act shall take after 15 days following the completion of its publication in the official gazette or in at least 2 newspapers for general circulation. We are now on the Journalist Code of Ethics. Ethical journalists must seek out and report on the truth no matter how difficult or unpleasant it might be. They must ensure the information they provide is accurate, whether that means cross-checking eyewitness accounts, doing independent research, or verifying source credibility. And categorize. First, I shall scrupulously report and interpret the news, taking care not to suppress essential facts, nor to distort the truth by omission or improper emphasis. I recognize the duty to err the other side and the duty to correct substantive errors promptly. Second, I shall not violate confidential information on material given me in the exercise of my calling. Third, I shall resort only to fair and honest methods in my effort to obtain news, photographs, and/or documents, and shall freely identify myself as a representative of the press when obtaining any personal interview intended for publication. Fourth, I shall refrain from writing reports which will adversely affect a private reputation unless the public interest justifies it. And at the same time, I shall write vigorously for public access to information as provided for in the Constitution. Fifth, I shall not let personal motives or interest influence me in the performance of my duties, nor shall I accept or offer any present, gift, or other consideration of a nature which may cast doubt on my professional integrity. Sixth, I shall not commit any act of plagiarism. Seventh, I shall not in any matter ridicule, cast aspersions on, or degrade any person by reason of sex, creed, religious belief, political conviction, cultural, and ethnic origin. 8. I shall presume persons accused of crime of being innocent until proven otherwise. I shall exercise caution in publishing names of minors and women involved in criminal cases so that they may not unjustly lose their standing in society. 9. I shall not take unfair advantage of a fellow journalist. 10. I shall accept only such tasks as are compatible with the integrity and dignity of my profession, invoking the conscience clause when duties imposed on me conflict with the voice of my conscience. 11. I shall comport myself in public or while performing my duties as journalist in such manner as to maintain the dignity of my profession. When in doubt, decency should be my watchword. This was approved by the Philippine Press Institute, the National Union of Journalists in the Philippines, and the National Press Club in 1988. We are now in the libel in a nutshell. So what is libel? Under Article 353 of the Philippine Revised Penal Code, libel is defined as a public and malicious imputation of a crime, or of a vice or defect, real or imaginary, or any act, omission, condition, status, or circumstance tending to cause dishonor, discredit, or contempt of a natural or juridical person, or to blanken the memory of one who is dead. Slander versus libel. As in nearly every other country in the Philippines, slander is a defamatory statement injures the reputation of one other person orally or in other transient form. According to Article 358 of Philippine Revised Penal Code, when it is spoken or all defamation, it is considered as a slander, while libel is a defamatory statement in which injures the reputation of another person in writing. In short, libel is a written defamation. There are various ways libel can be committed. According to Article 355 in the Philippine Revised Penal Code, a person can commit libel by means of printing, writing, engraving, theatrical exhibition, lithography, and others. When defamation is made in television, it is also considered as libel. So how can a person be held liable for the crime of libel? Any person who publishes or exhibits any defamation in writing or other means will be held liable for the crime of libel. Aside from the author or editor of the libellous pamphlet or book, the business manager or the daily newspaper will also face charges for the defamation, especially if he was proven to be the author of the content or the article. In fact, all the people who have active participation in the publication where the libellous article is found will be held liable as well. When a person has committed the crime of libel, the action will be filed in the regional trial court of the city or the province where the libellous article is printed and published. However, if the offended party is a private person, then you will be his place of residence where the offense was committed and the libellous article was printed and first published. We are now on the four elements of libel. First element is imputation must be malicious. When we say imputation, it is a charge or claim that someone has done something undesirable. In this first element, you accuse someone intentionally or intendedly. Second, the imputation must be defamatory. You are damaging the good reputation of someone. Third, the imputation must be made publicly. Of course, you are trying to damage the good reputation of someone in public. And lastly, the offended party must be identifiable or it is recognizable. And we are now down on our last topic, the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. Recognizing this dual aspect of this paradigm-shifting activity, Congress enacted the Republic Act 10175, or also known as the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. This new law defined and punished offenses which may be grouped as follows: offenses against confidentiality, integrity and availability of computer-related systems, computer-related offenses such as computer forgery, fraud, and identity theft, and content-related offenses such as cybersex, child pornography, and most significantly, cyber libel. And that will be all. Thank you for watching and listening to my discussion. I am very honored and at the same time very happy. And I hope that all of you learned something. God bless and stay safe.